The ocean is really, really deep. Deeper, in fact, than most people realize. If you were to somehow take 6 of the world's tallest buildings and stack them on top of each other, it wouldn't even break halfway in the ocean depths. The world is 75% water, though, and what is actually living in the deep depths might just shock you. Let's start with a sense of scale. This dot right here is the size of an average human. This larger dot is the size of a hippo. And this is the size of the most famous ship ever built, the Titanic. With these in mind, let's take a closer look inside of the water to see what we find. The first milestone is at 40 feet below the surface, which is the maximum depth allowed for recreational freedivers. A little further down at 305 feet was where the wreck of the Lusitania was discovered, which is actually interesting because the ship itself was 787 feet long. This means the ship sank in water, shallower than it was long, so if the ship was standing straight up, it would be sticking outside of the water. Just a little deeper than that, at 330 feet, is where any type of diving can become extremely fatal if you're not paying attention because of how far you are underwater. But that didn't seem to stop this man, Herbert Nitsch, from accomplishing the free diving world record at 831 feet below surface level. This guy swam this far underwater with just one breath. But just a few hundred feet down at 1,100 feet, we have the world scuba diving record accomplished by Ahmed Gabr in 2014. You see, if he swam just a little further at 1,600 feet, he would have reached the maximum dive depth of blue whales, the largest creatures on the planet. But the crazy thing is, a human actually went deeper than that, because at 2,000 feet was the deepest recorded dive by U.S. Navy Chief Daniel Jackson in 2006. At around this depth, we need to bring up the importance of understanding water pressure. At this level below the surface, the water pressure exerted on a person or animal would be almost equivalent to a rhino standing on a penny. Pretty ridiculous. But continuing to go further down at 2,700 feet would be the height of the Burj Khalifa, which is the tallest building in the world. Once we hit 3,000 feet below the surface, we get into a place called the Scary Zone. At this point, light from the surface can no longer reach, and creatures at these depths are stuck in permanent darkness. On top of this, the water pressure you would feel would be extreme, meaning you would die very quickly. If the permanent darkness and the water pressure didn't already kill you, at 3,900 feet you would get to see the maximum diving depths of great white sharks. And a little further down, at 4,000 feet, you would experience the average depth of the Arctic Ocean. Further down at 6,000 feet, we would reach the deepest part of the Grand Canyon, where it would be underwater with us. Down at 6,500 feet, we start running into some of the scarier sea creatures that you may have never heard of. Like the black dragonfish, a beast with a stomach that will never allow light to go through it. This means the only way you would ever get to see this thing in real life would be with an underwater flashlight. A little further down at 7,300 feet, we would reach the maximum depth dived to by sperm whales and colossal squids. People have found sperm whales to have marks and scars on their bodies that more than likely are because of fights with these colossal squids at these incredible depths. These squids are not to be messed with. They can grow to 45 feet long and weigh up to 165 pounds with humongous eyes and razor-sharp tentacles. A little further down at 12,500 feet, we reach the depth of the RMS Titanic wreck. And a bit past that, at 13,000 feet, we begin to enter the abyssal zone of the ocean. At this point of the ocean, it's characterized by constant darkness, near-freezing temperatures, and extremely high water pressure. While these conditions are harsh, in this zone there is a variety of sea life like the fing-tooth, anglerfish, and the viperfish. Down at 14,000 feet is the average depth of the ocean, where you would expect to hit the floor. But there are actually parts of the ocean that go significantly deeper than even this level. At 16,000 feet was the depth the Soviet nuclear submarine was recovered in 1974. And at 20,000 feet is the beginning of the Hadal Zone, which is the deepest region of the ocean, situated within oceanic trenches. This part of the ocean is named after the underworld Hades itself. Pretty damn scary. The water pressure at these depths would be equivalent to a single person carrying 50 Boeing jets by themselves. It would kill you immediately, but it's crazy because life still does exist down here in various forms. At around 22,000 feet is the USS Samuel B. Roberts, which is the deepest known shipwreck. The deepest point in the ocean reached by humans was actually back in 1960, though, when two men named Don Walsh and Jacques Picard reached a depth of 24,060 feet below surface level. It took them all of 5 hours to reach this depth of the ocean, only staying 20 minutes before a window cracked and they began to resurface. Just below that, at 24,189 feet, we get to the average flight altitude of a commercial plane. So, next time you're on a plane, look out the window and down at the ground. That is an incredibly accurate representation of how deep down into the abyss we currently are at. Finally, when we hit 36,069 feet, we've reached the furthest part of the ocean called the Challenger's Deep. However, it is believed that there are almost certainly even deeper parts of the ocean than this that just haven't been discovered yet. It is estimated that only about 5% of the ocean's floor has been accurately mapped, leaving the other 95% to be currently a mystery. It's only a matter of time before an even deeper part of the ocean is found, and who knows what we might discover then.